I don't think so.
What's that noise?
Popcorn.
You making popcorn?
Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Oh, just some scary movie.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
You never told me your name.
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
Welcome to the latest podcast that wouldn't die. I'm your host, Kevin. With me, as always, is Aaron.
Hey, people! I just got back from Iceland and I didn't pick up a single word. Don't even know how to say hello.
Gluten, tog, something, I don't know.
Whatever.
Who the heck knows?
It's like a cross between German and the way fairies might talk. I don't know.
That's what it is. You mean you're referring to mythical creatures, by the way, when you say fairies?
Not there. Ask Bjork. It's all real. They believe in trolls and fairies.
That's how they roll.
That's how they roll. They're real things.
This week we'll be discussing the horror classic Scream, starring Neve Campbell, David Arquette. Who else we got in there? Courtney Cox.
Mrs. Arquette at the time.
Not yet.
Not yet. This is where they met and fell madly in love.
This is where their love blossomed. Jamie Kennedy.
And died on the vine.
And that's a sad situation. Matthew Lillard, Skeet Ulrich, Rose McGowan, Drew Barrymore. The list goes.
Love Rose McGowan. She's my spirit animal.
Written by Kevin Williamson and directed by Wes Craven. So there you go. Good time.
I don't know why. I didn't see this when it came out. I don't know what that was about. Why wouldn't I have seen this? But I did not see it. I just was like, yeah, on another slasher, I think.
I think that was everybody's initial impression. But then, like, positive word of mouth spread. It literally was it opened with kind of a ho-hum. But then as the weeks passed, the numbers kept growing and growing and growing. So good time.
And it was probably, I had like a baby at the time, so and no babysitter, so unless it was at the drive-in, forget it.
Don't bring your babies to horror movies. We ain't
correcto.
So give us your 30-second synopsis of Scream.
Serial killer loose in small town. Calling up. There's a quiz. It's all about you must follow the rules. This is the movie that establishes the rules. The virgin is okay. Once you're not a virgin, you're fair game. Yada yada yada. It's who you kind of suspect. The end.
The end.
Neve Campbell survives, and she's the least interesting. Spoiler alert! And she's the least interesting character.
I don't know. I feel like I was kind of surprised when I saw it back in '96, but it's because, spoiler alert, there's two killers. The immortal Agatha Christie trick, where you kind of rule somebody out and realize, oh, just because they were innocent of that one murder doesn't mean that they're innocent of other murders.
Well, what tipped me is because if you assume they're not supernatural, right? The timing was too fast. You know what I mean?
So you sussed out that there were two killers.
Well, for sure, I knew it was the boyfriend, and when you know it's the boyfriend, it has to be his asshole friend too.
Very good. Now,
the part that I couldn't figure out is why you're terrorizing the people you're having sex with, because the fake Johnny Depp, I can see you, kill her. I got another one in line. Now the other one, the goofy friend, it's going to take him a bit longer. So why are you trying to terrorize and murder your own girlfriend? I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of relationships when they start to go left, you're like, you wish you were fucking dead. But
it's basically Matthew Lillard. Matthew Lillard, this is the hottest girl you're ever going to date. So
exactly.
Don't kill her.
Don't kill her. Bird in the hand, friend. Bird in the hand.
No offense, Matthew Lillard, if you're listening. Now,
our attacks, while vicious, are never really against the real person. It's only a made-up idea of who they are. Or their character. Or both.
Now, you said you had never seen this movie prior to 2 weeks ago or whatever.
No, I'd never seen it before, and for some reason in my mind it had melded with Scary Movie because I kept sitting here going, "This doesn't seem that funny." I mean, it's goofy, but I wouldn't call it a comedy.
Right. Right. No. Obviously, Scream came out first, which was ironically originally named Scary Movie. Like when the script was called Scary Movie. And they changed the title. Then the Wayans brothers came out with their spoof movie, Scary Movie, based upon Scream and other things. So,
which I have never seen. Did you see it?
This
is it up there with like Get Out as far as African American horror movies?
Yes, it's exactly the same thing as Get Out. You racist. No, this is about a contention. If you love Wayans brothers comedy,
like White Chicks.
Like White Chicks, exactly. Little Man.
Pootie Tang or whatever.
No, Pootie Tang's different. I love Pootie Tang.
Pootie Tang's really good.
If you like the Wayans brothers level, now, not Damon Wayans or Keenan Ivory Wayans. I'm talking down the line. Sean Wayans and Marlon Wayans and Tito Wayans.
Oh, Tito. And Michael? Is there a Michael too?
They came up with Scary Movie 1 and Scary Movie 2, which I think the first one's okay and the second one is lousy in my opinion. Now, other people think they're hilarious. To me, the funniest Scary Movie is Scary Movie 3.
Oh,
where the Wayans brothers...
So you literally dismissed the first two and yet continue to go and see them.
I'm trying to remember what the scenario was. But I had a friend who was like, let's go to the movies. I'm like, whatever. Scary Movie 3 is not the Wayans brothers anymore.
Oh.
It's now the Zucker brothers. And you know who the Zucker brothers, what they're...
Mark Zuckerberg?
Not Mark Zuckerberg. I believe this was Jerry Zucker, who were it was like Zucker, Abrams, Zucker, who did Airplane.
I hate those.
What?
I hate those. And the Naked Gun.
And the Naked Gun movie. This one, and they brought Leslie Nielsen back, so he's in this movie.
Boo.
This movie, Scary Movie 3, I think is the only funny one of the series, in my opinion. There you go. We're getting off on a tangent here. I saw Scream in the theater, but it was, again, I didn't see it like opening weekend. It was basically like after a few weeks, you started hearing the buzz building. So I think I saw it with our sister Tara, actually, at the time. And I remember Tara being not that impressed by it. I think she was thinking that the buzz was too much.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe
like Blair Witch.
Right. Where you're kind of like, if you go in with no expectations, you're like, this is pretty good. Yeah. But if you've had 4 weeks of people telling you it's the best movie they've ever seen, and then you walk in, you're like,
come on, people. The best movie we've ever seen. It's a good horror movie.
It is a good horror movie. And
I would say so. I was pleasantly surprised.
No question. And it's also kind of an homage to horror movies as well.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of a combination of those things. But it's funny to me because, again, directed by Wes Craven, who we always think of in terms of like The Last House on the Left, The Hills Have Eyes.
This is like a lighter, brighter Wes Craven.
Absolutely. It's really, I mean, there's some blood, but it's not gruesome or grisly or, intestines in the hallway or anything. You know what I mean? So it's a lighter one.
It's a lighter one, and it makes sense, and it's not supernatural, which I appreciate.
Right. Shall we jump right in with highlights?
I think we did, Brother Bear. Let's see here.
One thing that's kind of cool about this movie, and we've talked about this before, is the opening scene is, 15 or 20 minutes with Drew Barrymore.
Who we love. We love Drew Barrymore. Be our friend, Drew Barrymore.
Absolutely. And she was arguably the biggest star going into this movie.
Right. I would agree.
She was the draw. She was on all the posters. She was on all the commercials. So it's a shock, spoiler alert, when she is killed in the first scene of the movie.
I think that's the homage, or she's the hook and then you kill her off. It's just like in Psycho.
Right. She is Marion Crane from Psycho, where you think this is the star, and then they're dead meat. Now, Marion Crane, I swear to God, last 50 minutes into that movie.
Yeah, boom.
Before
And people are like, "What? You killed the star?"
well, I mean, and not to go
I
off
love
on a
Psycho.
tangent.
Is a
Psycho
movie.
is dynamite. It's fun. I always say I don't want to go off on a tangent. Literally, Lucy was talking to me. She's like, "I like your show, Dad, but you keep going off on these tangents."
That's our signature style. Stream of consciousness.
No question. You come for the movie, you stay for the tangents.
There
It's
you
kind of
go.
my attitude.
That's right.
Um,
That's why it's entertaining for us.
For us, Psycho is great because you think it's like a heist movie almost. Not a heist movie exactly, but a woman on the run. The
Right.
cops are after her.
She's
For
got
literally 45
money. She's
minutes.
changing cars. You're like, what's going on? What's
Right.
going on?
Absolutely. It's a fugitive from justice movie.
Right.
Is what you think.
She's super paranoid. She's assuming
Right.
that all the cops are looking at her strange. It's great. And then
Right.
boom, she's
And
dead.
then boom. She stops at the wrong hotel where there's a mild, unassuming Anthony Perkins, who was kind of a heartthrob at the time.
Exactly. He's tall, sensitive. Those chocolate brown eyes. What a heart! Weep, weep, weep.
And then suddenly the movie is now a slasher flick out
Exactly.
of nowhere. Now, if you don't know that going in, you're kind of like, oh, this is kind of an interesting, character study of Marion Crane. Boom, dead.
Dead. Fantastic.
Anyway,
Oh my God.
that's
It's one of my
what
favorite movies.
So that's kind of what they were doing here. Here's Drew Barrymore. She's the star. Oh, wait a minute. She's dead. Boom.
Everybody's like, what? I know, because I was like, I'm trying to understand what was going on. I'm like, maybe they're watching a movie. I don't know. I was like, because boom, it's right into it. There's no messing around. It's like
No
she's
messing
on the couch. Immediately, it's the babysitter getting the weird phone calls.
Oh, yeah. No question.
Ooh.
So
I was like,
it
and
is-
then she dies. I was like, what? I thought she was going to be like a J.B. Lee Curtis.
right. And she was not. She was a Janet Leigh.
She was a Janet Leigh. And
Such
this
is
whole
life.
movie is peppered with all kinds of references because I think there were some
Oh,
people
yeah.
named after, not Crane, but there were some other bird names in the movie that reminded me of Psycho. Somebody else had like
Well,
either a
that's
Psycho name or was it the bird's name? But
There was a Halloween reference.
there were Halloween reference. There's a Linda Blair cameo.
Linda Blair cameo, absolutely. Well, the main boy in the movie, Skeet Ulrich, plays Billy Loomis.
Loomis. That was what was throwing me off. The Loomis.
Yes.
What was that from Loomis?
That's from
Loomis.
Halloween. It's a double whammy
Oh.
in Halloween because there's a character named Dr. Loomis in Halloween who's Donald Pleasance, but there's an actress in the movie whose name is Loomis in real life. So it's a
Okay.
double Loomis reference.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good stuff. Let's see here. At the beginning, when you first meet the characters, it's pure 1990s Brat Pack. It's
Yep.
all the young kids that were popular in the 90s that were on like TV shows and stuff.
Right. They
and-
weren't huge stars, but they were kind of up and coming stars for the most part.
And I never understood why Nev Campbell has an Indigo Girls poster. Nobody had an Indigo Girls poster.
Oh, I had some friends who loved the Indigo Girls.
And did they have posters? Your guy friends had Indigo Girl posters?
No. Not my guy friends. None of my guy friends like the Indigo Girls.
And none of my gal friends had Indigo
I had
Girls.
girlfriends who liked the Indigo Girls.
I
don't
didn't
know
ask
they had
if they listened to it, but they actually went out and bought a poster. I didn't even know that was a thing.
posters. What was it? It was
Hold on.
Lilith.
Do you think I listened to 10,000 Maniacs? Do you think I had a poster of Natalie Merchant?
You're forgetting this is the time of Lilith Fair, where it was all that kind of female empowerment, like concerts that were
Very
going on.
lesbian friendly, I understand.
I wasn't. How dare you?
Women
People of
empowerment.
all persuasions can appreciate Lilith Fair. is my
Honestly, I cannot even tell you. I have a friend who swears that she and I were at an Indigo Girls concert. I was like, that was not me, my friend.
Not you, and not I said the fly.
Not I said the fly. I kept trying to remind her it was Joe Jackson. But she swear it was Indigo Girls. No.
Yes, we are very different times. If you're having Joe Jackson posters on your wall,
I did not have a Joe Jackson. What poster did I have? Oh fuck, I don't know. Whatever. I can't. It's all a blur. It was mostly guys, hot guys. I mean, I love the Pretenders. They're one of my top groups, but I didn't have a poster of Chrissy Hines.
What about the band? They're like good-looking British dudes, right?
They were. Half of them were dead by the time I could afford to buy my old records. Too much of the drugs.
That's upsetting.
Now we are officially on a tangent.
No, that's two tangents so far.
So now, Blair, the beginning, Blair Witch. Oh no, I don't even know what we're talking about anymore. Drew, I meant to say Drew Barrymore. And I said,
or the Blair Witch.
Or the Blair Witch. Maybe she is the Blair Witch. I don't know.
Who's to say?
What I thought was funny is she was knocking out some Jiffy Pop. I was like, talking about the Wayback Machine.
Absolutely.
I'm sure nobody knows what the hell that stuff is. Before microwave popcorn, they had Jiffy Pop.
Well, and I was laughing because it's like she's talking to the killer, because this is like a big trope that was started in this movie, where the killer calls her like he's an obscene caller kind of thing.
Like When a Stranger Calls. Except
like When a Stranger Calls.
Except there was a quiz involved in this situation.
Right. He starts asking her about horror movies. When she figures out that he is not who he claims to be, basically, he's a murderer, kills her boyfriend.
Right.
She says, I'm going to call the police. And he says, go ahead, they wouldn't get here in time. I would still call the police.
I would still call the police.
I wouldn't take the killer's word for it. Oh, damn. Okay. I guess you may be
right. If you don't mind, I'm just going to lay here until you come in.
Forgive me if I call them anyway. Basically, is the moral of the story. But here's the thing.
What I find fascinating, I mean, the minute somebody started acting psycho, I would just be hanging up on them over and over and over again. I wouldn't be having these long conversations with them.
Right.
I would never get to the point where he's like, you're going to die, because I would have just been like, hello, hello, hello.
Right. Stop. Well, and again, she's kind of a flirty-gurdy when she first starts answering the phone. Do you have a boyfriend? No, I don't have a boyfriend. Really? Your boyfriend's on your way over to watch a movie with you. Good times.
Well, she probably thinks it's him or one of his knucklehead friends pranking her. Because that's a thing people did. I don't know if nobody telephone pranks anymore, because now, most of the time if you call with the blocked ID, no one answers anyway.
That is true. So Ghostface would have a harder time, is what we're saying.
Isn't there a rapper face? Ghostface Killer.
Yes, there is.
Clearly based on this. And what I couldn't figure out, so the killer has that, in case you don't know, it has like a ghost mask with a long mouth. Did that exist before this movie?
It did. It was from a famous painting by Edvard Munch.
Is that what that's from? The Scream?
What's the name? The Scream!
I didn't know that.
Coincidence. I just blew your mind.
You blew my mind, dude. Boom. We can do a whole pageant of the Masters now. Yeah.
Okay. So Nev Campbell's boyfriend is played by Skeet Ulrich. His character's name, like we said, is Billy Loomis.
He's dressed like a fake Johnny Depp. Not just dressed. A bootleg.
Yes. A homeless man's version of Johnny Depp. He's cultivating the kind of greasy Johnny Depp look.
Hair in the eye, like kind of a, is it cross between a crybaby and Gilbert Grape, I think.
Oh, no. That's a bad cross. That's a bad cross.
This is back when Johnny Depp used to do acting in things.
Right.
Before he had to supply his $30,000 a month wine and just does a couple of pirates to refill the tankard.
That's all you got to do. Well, there was this guy, Skeet Ulrich, had been in the movie The Craft with Nev Campbell a year or two prior to this. And he did not look anything like this. No. He looked like your typical kind of frat boy, preppy kind of guy, had a fancy hairstyle. So somebody told him, your career's going nowhere.
Be Johnny
You need
Depp.
to cultivate absolute. Well, it's kind of like Christian Slater. People don't remember. Christian Slater was in a few things, and then he was in Heathers, where he was cultivating a Jack Nicholson
Right.
impression, which he carried on
For the
basically
rest
for
of
the
his
rest of the
life.
90s. Right. Which is a weird compare. Jack Nicholson? Hey, what? Huh, I'm Christian Slater. That's my Jack Nicholson Christian Slater impression, by the way. It's like again, Jack Nicholson, not a heartthrob in the '80s, as far as I know. Who's to say though?
Yeah, and
Different
because
story.
of that, Christian Slater, not so much a heartthrob in the 80s. Although I just watched him on Netflix with the Betty Broderick story playing the wife or the husband. He was fantastic. Not Jack Nicholson. Not Jack Nicholson.
He's had kind of a comeback, or because he was on a show on USA called Mr. Robot. Mr. Robot. I don't know why I pronounced it that way.
Because you were going to say Roboto.
Yes.
No more.
Domo arigato, Mr. Roboto. Exactly. Which he got some critical acclaim for that. And I guess Skeet Ulrich, God bless him, is now on Riverdale or something.
Oh, yeah.
If you watch Riverdale.
According to our friends at Film Fluence.
That is correct. Okay. So Billy Loomis is talking to Nev Campbell. Campbell's mom died like a year before. And evidently their kind of relationship, Billy and Nev Campbell, whose name is Sydney,
Right.
has been kind of like stagnant since her mother died. So he sneaks in her window and he's like, a year or two, we were hot and heavy. And, you know, we were steady heading our way to NC-17. And I kept thinking to myself, when you were 14, you were heading to NC-17? Hey,
boys will try it. I don't know if you know this, but boys will say any bullshit that they can think of just to get in your britches.
I mean, and make no mistake, it's like my life experience when I was 14 was a hard G. Hard G, right until about 22. It was a hard G.
I always
So it's a
thought everybody
separation.
was having sex. Everyone appeared, even at Raymond Cree Junior High, everyone was acting like they've been having sex for 10 years. I literally thought I was some kind of a freak.
Well, you were, but
not for virginity's sake.
Exactly.
It was a hard G.
A hard G. So then we also meet Jamie Kennedy, who plays Randy, who's basically the voice of the tropes.
Right.
He's only there to pop up and say, here are the rules of horror movies, you know, for all the laymen out there who don't understand, you know, the way horror movies work, essentially. Without him, I guess we wouldn't understand the plot even a little.
I hate him so much, Kevin. I hate him so much. He was so irritating.
He is basically me.
He's not you. He is so irritating.
It's a kind of, and you see this kind of like from
I'm
IT
not sure
workers.
it's the character. I just think it's Jamie Kennedy.
Who's to say?
Who's to say?
It's the kind of condescension towards minutia. It's like, oh, you don't remember who was the fifth lead in the fourth Scream movie? You're a stupid idiot. Right? You moron for not knowing this stuff. And that's kind of how I carried myself, frankly. No, at one point he drops into a topical Jerry Lewis impression for no reason.
I've never understood Jerry Lewis.
A Jerry Lewis impression in 1996.
Because Jamie Kennedy wants to be a comedian.
I think he was a comedian.
So he says. So therefore, they must worship at the altar of Jerry F. Lewis, whose only thing worth seeing is the King of Comedy. That's the only Jerry Lewis that I want to see.
Well, I'm sure Wes Craven, who is like 60 at this point, appreciated it.
I love me some Martin and Lewis.
I only have one note, Jamie. I need more Jerry Lewis impressions.
More.
If you could work in a few Nutty Professor references,
geez, Louise.
so much the better.
Come on. Say it isn't true.
It's a sad situation. Okay, then there's Courtney Cox, who plays Gail Weathers, who's kind of the hard copy investigative journalist. Do they have shows like this anymore?
Oh, they
Inside
TMZ.
Edition.
She's the dude from TMZ. What was his name?
Oh, Harvey Levin.
She's the Harvey Levin of the 90s. Or maybe she's the Gerardo.
It could be. There's still obviously kind of TMZ, which is more like People magazine.
Hard copy. Yeah.
Hard copy, a current affair. We're like always kind of like, and now the top story, where it's like kind of trashy
gossip and trash,
right,
and car accidents.
Right. Exactly. But I'm assuming they still have those kind of shows. But in the 90s, there was a million.
Yeah.
Maury, we would not know who Maury Povich is if it wasn't for a current affair.
And can you believe Jerry Springer is still on?
Jerry Springer's different, though. He's on one of those daytime talk shows where it's like the neo-Nazis meet, throwing chairs at each other.
No, that was Geraldo.
That was Geraldo. Richard Bay.
I think is on Richard Bay. Wasn't he a DJ?
No, that's Rick Dees. I guess not the same person. Good times.
That's a tangent for sure.
For sure. So she's kind of investigating because, like we said, Neve Campbell's mom had been murdered, and there was somebody convicted of the crime based upon Neve Campbell's testimony. That was Cotton Weary.
Cotton Weary, which I kind of like. That was kind of a cool name.
Kind of an interesting name. So she's there because it's exactly a year later. And now there's murders occurring in this
sleepy little wine country town.
No questions. Now, at the beginning, they clearly want us to think it's Billy, right? Sydney's being chased by the killer, and then Billy's climbing in her window and then drops the phone.
Yeah.
1 second later, drops the phone because, again, the killer always calls first to say, "Hey, Sydney."
Right.
You like scary movies?
And cell phones were expensive then, so she would for sure know if her boyfriend had a cell phone.
Absolutely. Well, it's like he just literally drops it out of his pocket.
Yeah, stupid.
What is happening? Good luck. He should have been like, "I broke the screen again," is what he should have said when he dropped his phone on the floor. Very upsetting. Mm-hmm. But so he is supposed to be the prime, because again, he's kind of pressuring her for sex.
Right.
Bumping into her in the hall in the class.
Pardon me, that was just my penis. Sorry.
Right. He's like, "Your mom died like a year ago. Can't you get over it?
Your vagina's been shut for a year."
That's what he's saying.
It's ridiculous.
It's very upsetting.
So what I don't understand, but she was a virgin. They never did it.
They had never did.
She was an everything but girl, I think, is what we're saying here.
There was some heavy petting going on up to this point, I think is what he was implying. But now it's like kiss on the cheek, high five at the door.
Well, and I guess he figures, why waste it? It might as well get some sex before I kill her.
Right. Well, we don't know he's the killer yet.
I'm just thinking what was in his mind.
Well, it seems clear in retrospect that this was literally like a horror movie thing where it's like the people who have sex are the ones who die.
Right. So do you think he was not going to kill her until they had sex?
It's hard to say.
What did Kennedy say about that?
Well, he could have killed her other times. Right? So,
and he could have just walked into her room and killed her without making a single phone call. So the terror is part of it.
Well, I think, in retrospect, it's like Stu comes in, Billy's co-conspirator, comes in there and scares her, shakes the knife at her, and then Billy appears so that she can think Billy's the killer, so he can be arrested. And then Stu calls her to be like, "Oh, you arrested an innocent man," to kind of get suspicion off Billy. Like this is all like a well thought out plan.
Do you think this is like a weird, overly complicated, and if your goal is just to kill all these people? What is the end game?
The goal is to kill all these people
and be famous,
also get away with it.
And get away with it.
No, these two want to get away with it. It isn't until the second movie with Timothy Oliphant who's like, I want to get caught.
Right. Okay.
I want to get famous.
You're right.
These two, because later in the movie, they kind of stab each other because they're going
to be the lone survivors.
They're going to be the lone survivors, and they're going to frame Sidney's father for the murder. Basically, he's the one. He's distraught. So he flips out and murders everybody. That's their plan. And Randy, multiple times, says there's always some BS reason to kill somebody. So don't worry trying to track down the motive of the killer. Right. So they kind of, later in the movie, Billy reveals...
Yeah, I mean, unless it's for money or something else, the motive really doesn't matter.
Most of the time in horror movies, there is no motive. Or it's a very, very loose
Or
motive.
like The Strangers, where it's just random.
Right. Well, there were two things. Number one, in Halloween, the original Halloween, John Carpenter goes out of his way to basically say, like, this kid's just evil. There's no motive. He crazy.
They made it very clear that his babysitter was having sex and not supervising. They made it very...
That was his sister.
His sister.
That was his sister.
Right.
Yes. So he goes and stabs her.
He may be evil, but there's always a tipping point because then after that, it's babysitter, babysitter, babysitter.
So you're suggesting I don't think you're a good babysitter, so I'm going to murder you?
Right.
That was the last straw.
That was the beginning of all the babysitter murder shows. You're vulnerable. You're in someone else's house. You are on the phone talking to your friends, not watching the kids. You've shoved the kids in bed. Now you have the reign of the house, and people didn't have cell phones. You weren't able to contact people.
So they find it scarier if there isn't a clear motive. Yes. But they kind of dip their toe into two different ponds here because they're like, Billy Loomis is killing you, Sidney, because your mom had an affair with my dad.
And destroyed our family, yeah.
And destroyed our family, made my mom leave.
Right.
So now that's why I'm killing you. Whereas Stu, they kind of throw, who is Billy's like best friend, he kind of says, I don't know, peer pressure?
Yeah. It's whatever.
So it's like he was just nuts.
I never understood that. I can't get my friends to just do half the stuff I want to do. How do you come on, let's go kill? Okay, cool.
I can't get my friends to listen to this podcast. Okay, that's what it is. One thing that kept occurring to me is the killer always seems to get his butt kicked a little bit during the attack.
Yeah.
He's getting hit in the head with phones. They're knocking the feet out. He's getting knocked around. You think they'd come to school the next day with black eyes, split lip, missing a tooth?
100%.
They do not.
100%.
They do not. So maybe that should have been the clue. But there's multiple kind of false positives, let's say, where it's just like, oh, there's the killer's boots. Let's zoom in on the sheriff's boots. Yeah. So we kind of go, maybe it's the sheriff. Let's show the principal wearing the mask. Right, but they kind of suggest, again, if you're watching, you're kind of thinking anybody could be the killer. Anybody could be the killer. But early on, they were pushing that it was Billy Loomis and then kind of exonerate him because Billy's locked up and then the killer calls Sidney on the phone while homie's in jail. So,
homie, don't you know?
They're messing with us. They're messing with us, is the moral of the story. Henry Winkler plays the principal, uncredited. And it is great. It is great. I talked about this on the other podcast we were on, Filmfluence, talking about the Scream movies. And he opens up his closet and gets kind of startled because there's a mirror in his closet. And if you're watching, there's Fonzie's jacket hanging on a hook. And he starts to do the thing where it's just like, Fonzie had this thing. Now, nobody under the age of 55 knows what we're talking about. But Fonzie would do this thing where he'd go look at him, like have his like comb in his hand, look in the mirror like he was going to do something, and be like, kind of like, oh, it's perfect the way it is. Yeah. Like that was kind of, oh, hey. So he kind of does a little bit something like that during the Scream movie. He kind of looks at himself in the reflection, kind of goes, hey.
Solid.
I love it.
Solid as
Like, that's all I'm
rock.
going to say. What highlights do you have? Goodness gracious.
I have, of course, the Linda Blair cameo.
Yep, she's a reporter in one scene.
I have that throughout the movie, you see various people dressed with a Freddy Krueger sweater on.
Yes.
All through the movie. I love that.
Henry Winkler goes in the hall because he hears a noise, and there's the janitor like mopping up or something. He's wearing Freddy Krueger's hat, Freddy Krueger's sweater, and he looks right at Henry Winkler. And do you know who the actor is?
Is it Robert Englund?
Wes Craven.
Oh, I didn't even see that. I know what Wes Craven looks like.
Well, he had like a crazy like handlebar mustache. Kind of goes, "You son of a."
That's beautiful. I love a little Alfred Hitchcock cameo.
Absolutely, no question.
Rose McGowan looks fabulous as not the fake Johnny Depp girlfriend. She looks great.
No,
she looks like the chick from Suicide Squad, and she's a badass in this. She's much more interesting than the Sydney character.
Oh, no question. Sydney, the problem, I think this is a Nev Campbell issue. Nev, if you're listening, I apologize. Where she just kind of, her line delivery kind of makes her really angsty and just not a lot of fun to be around. But I guess is the moral of the story.
Well, it's kind of like the straight people, like the straight man in the whole thing. They're never like in Seinfeld. Jerry was always the least interesting character in the Seinfeld. So maybe that has to be so that everybody else shines. But quite frankly, kill Nev Campbell, not kill Nev Campbell. Who cares?
That is the question.
Who cares? Rose McGowan, we should have held on to her a little bit longer because every line was a pearl coming out of her.
That's true. There's a scene where she has with Rose McGowan and Nev Campbell where they're talking about how Cotton Weary, the man convicted of Sydney's mother's death, like proclaimed his innocence, that yes, he had an affair with Sydney's mom, but he didn't kill her. And Sydney is kind of under this delusion that they had this perfect home life, when in reality, they later say, your mom was flashing around all over town like Sharon Stone. And let's be honest, Sid, your mom's no Sharon Stone. Yeah. But Nev's like, oh, that's such baloney. It's just not true. And Tatum, played by Rose McGowan, kind of says like, actually, Sid, the stories were around long before then. And she said, and Nev's like, well, you don't believe the stories, dude. And he's like, well, it's kind of like Richard Gere with the gerbil. If you hear it often enough, you start to believe
Poor Richard Gere. They're going to say that at his funeral.
I mean, that's the question. Does anybody under the age of 40 have any idea about Richard Gere and the gerbil? If they don't, Google it, because I'm not going into it in detail.
There was something similar in American Psycho, but it was a starving rat and PVC piping. It all comes back to American Psycho.
Please,
no. I just went through my notes. Of course, I knew it was shot in California, so I did notice Red Tail Ale from the Montecito Brewing Company because I used to stop at their brewery going up to college. So it was definitely filmed in wine country, which means they filmed it in California, which means they used union, which means this place had a budget. Most of the time, horror movies are like, when we used to watch The Full Moon, they're always filmed in like Romania or something.
Absolutely. Yugoslavia.
The deepest part of Canada, just to avoid union wages.
Oh, no question. This is a high profile, high expense movie. Yes. No question. And frankly, I was looking around. I'm like, is every kid in this movie, their parents are millionaires?
Yes, it's wine
country. Every home is a huge mansion. Yes. Huge mansions. I mean, Stu's thrown, spontaneously in the middle of the movie for seemingly no inciting incident, they go, there's a curfew. Because there hadn't been a new murder, right? It was like the first murder, and then later they're like, the principal just spontaneously like, oh, curfew tonight, no school tomorrow.
Okay.
And Stu, it's like, okay, I'm not arguing, but it seems like, shouldn't there have been some kind of second thing that occurs, but that's
Maybe
not
a
here nor there.
PTA meeting of some sort.
Right, that's exactly. It's a teacher planning day. So Stu throws a big party, and it's literally a huge multi-story mansion.
Oh yeah, but the party
Sounds
was
good.
not. It was no Animal House party.
No, not a toga party.
Oh,
Well, they were just chilling watching horror movies because, of course, Randy's there because he's got to explain the Tao of horror movies to everybody.
More explaining.
Good times. Tatum is later killed in a garage door, and I kept thinking, strong garage door.
Yeah, hell of a garage door,
Right?
because you can see it had the cushion at the bottom, so as soon as it hit, it would have triggered it to roll back up.
They're designed not to chop you in half, right? It's not an industrial press. Hydraulics coming down. And so she's afraid to kind of try to slide under the garage door like she's Indiana Jones and then the Temple of Doom
She
or
was
something.
slow as hell. It was ridiculous. You got, as we often say, if you get your head through it, you can get your whole body through it.
I think her boobs kind of constricted her.
It was ridiculous. She even got her boobs popped through, and somehow she couldn't get her hips through. Ridiculous.
Right.
It's not.
So she's
not a Kardashian. She could have just slid right through.
She's probably 5'2".
Yeah.
I mean, she's a little.
It's like
anyway,
throwing a 12-year-old girl through there with big boobs.
No question. It's a little doggy door in the garage door, so she squeezes halfway through. Ghostface hits the garage door button so it starts to go up and lifts her up. I mean, again, strong garage door.
It reminded me back in the old days, our parents never had an actual key to our house. So they just lock everything up and make Kevin crawl through the doggy door to lock and unlock the house.
That was standard. So Tatum, I guess, gets her neck broken or
back broken, something.
Because the garage door just squishes her. There's like no safety measures at all. This is the most powerful garage door known to man. Let's see. So there's a killer on the loose, right? The killer at this point of the party has killed Drew Barrymore and her boyfriend at the beginning of the movie. Halfway through the movie, he has killed the principal of the school, right? And now he's like on the loose. Who did they kill? I think he said, because they found the principal like hanging above the football field.
Right. Everybody's entrails are hanging out and shit like that.
Right. So half the people leave the party, all the kind of extras leave the party to go check out the gore, essentially. And yet people are still kind of flirting around. Like Billy Loomis shows up.
And the first one to leave the party. When everybody leaves, that's when the good stuff begins.
Except that there's a killer on the loose.
Except for that.
I don't think I'm gonna start. Let's go upstairs, big boy.
Let's get busy.
That's ridiculous.
Hello, stranger. Let's get busy.
Going my way, sailor. We're not doing that. We're not doing that. No can do. And so Nev gets attacked upstairs by the killer. Billy is seemingly killed. Randy is downstairs still watching the horror movies. And I kept thinking, is he deaf? He can't hear the screams. I mean, I know it's a big place. It ain't so big that is he in a soundproof vault?
I know.
What is happening?
Exactly. And meanwhile, what we didn't mention was Courtney Cox, who absolutely plays her friend's character.
Yes.
That same kind of manic energy is outside in a van, like monitoring all of this with hidden cameras.
Well, yes. Basically, this is a bitchier version of Monica from Friends. Now, she's in town to try to get the big scoop because she made her name on the murder of her mother the year before, essentially. And she
wrote a book or something, right?
Wrote a book claiming that Cotton was innocent.
Right.
Wrongly convicted of this murder. So she's there.
She and Sydney are not friends. They are at odds. They hate each other.
They hate each other. No can do. Later, her cameraman is killed.
The only black person, I think. Oh no, he was white in this one.
No, Right. There are no black people in this town. There are no this. It's kind of like Orange
I
County.
think this
in
is
that
supposed
way.
to be like Hillsborough, so that sounds about right. There should be some brown people at the school because someone has to pick those grapes.
Right. We were saying it's obviously Iceland in the 50s. basically.
I did not see a
What's
lot
that?
of African American people in Iceland.
No. Well, that is the truth. Later, Gail's trying to escape, so she jumps in the news van, tries to drive away. Randy comes up. She thinks Randy's the killer. She whacks him in the face. She's driving and then seemingly just loses control of the van and drives off the road. And I kept thinking, did they cut the brake lines? I mean, why are we driving like crashing into the woods? Do you not know how to drive?
It's all new things.
It's the pedal on the left if you want to stop. Oh, sweet Jesus. So then the grand reveal, spoiler alert, is it's Billy was one of the killers, but it was also Stu in kind of an Agatha Christie
And then there
ripoff where it's like,
yeah.
where they kind of give you so many breadcrumbs, but also red herrings. So it's like is everybody a little suspicious? Who's to say? We haven't even talked about Dewey, but David Arquette, who is Tatum's older brother, who works like as a deputy.
Oh yeah.
Or something.
It's so stupid. David Arquette plays, Officer Doofus McLoofus, and
Yes.
for all 25 Scream movies, and it's just ridiculous. And for the first one, it's kind of funny or endearing, and then it just gets irritating.
Right, because he's totally a beta male, if you know what I'm saying. Kind of wimpy, and he's got like a weird pencil thin, like Douglas Fairbanks mustache for some bizarre reason.
Yeah, it's terrible.
But of course, he immediately gets into a romance with Gail Weathers,
which makes no sense. It's like, because everybody wanted to tap Barney Fife.
Everybody loved Mr. Furlong. But I mean, it's art imitating life.
True.
Because they did get together, strangely enough. So there's two killers. They reveal their whole plan. They've allegedly killed everybody, but we find out that Dewey is alive and Randy is alive. The father was shoved in the closet the whole time, I guess.
Yeah, whatever. For 2 days. In his own excrement, I guess.
Hopefully they slid him a bedpan or something. Who knows? Again, house full of people. It's a house party with like somebody chained up in the closet.
Yeah, nobody knows. Yeah.
Do you have any other?
I got nothing else. I'm just saying it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I like the ones where you can try to figure it out, and I would say this is a good horror film.
It's very well written. It's very well written. It has good homages.
Yeah.
It has everything you might need, for God's sake.
I think, though, the only problem is that for most people, they already know what the hook is. It's like in The Sixth Sense. Once everybody whispered, he's dead. It kind of spoils it. Yeah, it kind of kills it a little bit. So, like I said, I was never certain that I could tell by watching it who it was. Maybe I didn't figure it out, the friend. But I don't know if I figured it out or through the years it had wiggled in my ear. You know what I mean? At the time,
it could have wiggled in your ear.
At the time, I thought I was like, I got this all figured out. But did I? But it's like someone who writes a song and then, oh no, this is a total ripoff of a song you heard when you were like 5 years old or whatever,
That is true. Who's to say?
What came first?
The chicken or the egg?
Yeah.
Okay, so shall we go to behind the scenes?
Please.
The party scene near the end of the movie runs 42 minutes long. It was shot over the course of 21 days.
What?
From the time the sun set to the time it rose. So it was all night filming this every night.
For
21
party
days.
scene? Oh, yeah. They had deep budgets. How ridiculous.
And after it wrapped, the crew had T-shirts made that said, "I survived scene 118." The longest night in horror history is what the crew jokingly called it. Let's see. At the beginning of the movie, when Casey's parents, that's Drew Barrymore, when they arrive home to find something's wrong, her father tells her mother to go to the Mackenzies.
Right.
This is the same thing Laurie told Lindsay and Tommy in Halloween.
Oh, good one.
There you go. Jamie Kennedy was chosen for the role of Randy because he would often improvise humor into his lines, which made Wes Craven laugh.
Oh, Jesus, I knew
I
it.
told you he loved his Jerry Lewis
Oh,
impressions.
no.
I need more Jerry Lewis.
Oh.
This was filmed. It was supposed to be filmed at Santa Rosa High School. However, they changed their mind. There had been a shooting nearby, a school shooting. So they changed their mind and had to film it at a different school. Very sad. So if you look in the credits, it says, "No thanks whatsoever to the Santa Rosa City
Yes,
School
I saw
District."
that. I was like, oh, dear.
The use of caller ID increased more than threefold after the release of this
Yeah,
movie.
did you notice that it was a separate box?
Yes, in the second
In
movie.
the second movie, it's a separate box. Yeah, that was old school.
Let's see. Originally, Ghostface's signature black robe was going to be white to look more like a ghost, but people were afraid it looked too much like the Ku Klux Klan.
Ah, well, that is scary too.
That's for an entirely different reason. The voice of Ghostface, Roger Jackson, he never met any of the actors. And actually, his voice was just kind of supposed to be a placeholder at first. But then later, they liked it so much, they just kept
Right, it was supposed to be like these knucklehead high school kids had a voice changer.
Right. That's exactly right. Matthew Lillard was cast by chance because he was accompanying his then girlfriend to an unrelated audition. So he just happened to be in the building, and they're like, "Hey,
Right?
come on
It was
in."
Kismet.
Kismet. Let's see. Courtney Cox really lobbied to get this role because she was hoping to break the kind of stereotype that she was kind of bubbly and sweet Monica all the time. And they initially did not want to hire her because of it.
She was still
So there you
Monica. And in Cougar Town, she was still Monica. Maybe that's just her.
I mean, what are you going to do? She's not Meryl Streep, for God's sake.
She's
doing what
Kevin
she can do.
Costner.
Oh.
Kavina Costner. How about that?
That's very upsetting. Let's see. So remember we talked about how the principal just spontaneously closes school and declares a curfew for seemingly no reason in the middle of the movie. Originally, Sydney was supposed to be attacked and goes and bursts into the principal's office crying.
But she was attacked at the school.
Right, but she did not go to the principal with her story, basically. That's what it was. There was a scene that has her go in crying to the principal, and that's why he closes
So
the
why
school.
did they cut that out? Because they didn't
I don't
want
know,
things to
timing.
make sense? Okay.
Yeah, they didn't. They absolutely did not want anything to make sense. The original script was written by Kevin Williamson, who's kind of a new screenwriter. He was working on this movie called Teaching Mrs. Tingle with Helen Mirren. He'd written that script.
First
and
of all,
they
if
were
you're a
working on it.
teacher, you can't have a last name Tingle.
Do you know what's funny? I knew a teacher whose name was Verga, which is Italian for branch, but in Spanish it means something else.
Uh-oh.
Right. What are you going to do? It's very upsetting. So, anywho, they were working on getting that movie made, but then it kind of ran into production difficulties or something. So he started working on another script just to make money, to put food on the table. Went to Palm Springs, the land of our birth, and hammered out Scream over the weekend.
Good job. Good job, sir.
And he actually wrote an outline for 2 more Scream movies. His outline was used to make Scream 2, which came out less than a year
Which
later.
is okay.
They actually tossed out his outline for Scream 3 and started from scratch.
Yeah, as they should.
And a different,
and then they should
and a
have lit
different.
it on fire and let it burn to cleanse
Well,
it.
but that's the thing. It's like they should have clearly used his original outline because they threw out his outline, and which is why the third one seems strange and peculiar and not nearly as good.
100%.
But the success of Scream gave Kevin Williamson a lot of opportunities. He released I Know What You Did Last Summer a year later. And there was actually some controversy because on the posters it said, I Know What You Did Last Summer from the creator of Scream.
But Wes Craven is the creator of Scream.
That's exactly right. That was their feeling. So they got sued and had to change it off the posters.
And I have never seen I Know What You Did Last Summer.
It's not bad. It's not bad. It is Sarah Michelle Gellar, Jennifer Love Hewitt.
Sarah Michelle
Freddie
Gellar
Prinze Jr.
is in one of these. Oh, she's in number 2, Scream 2, right?
She's in number 2. And Ryan Phillippe is in this. And it's that old story. And it was a book from the 70s where it's kids screwing around, run like a hitchhiker down, and throw the body in the swamp.
As one does in high school.
As one does. And now there's a killer on the loose, leaving them notes. I know what you did last summer, kind of thing, hunting them down. So that's what they were doing. And then, of course, Dawson's Creek. He did Dawson's Creek, which also was very successful.
Which I never saw a single episode of.
Well, it's James Van Der Beek, it's Katie Holmes, Joshua Jackson, and Michelle Williams, who ironically is like now a big star. He's in movies all over the place. But if you never have seen Dawson's Creek, it's notable because no one, again, a bunch of high school students, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, who all talk like they are college philosophy professors. You know what I mean? It's like their dialogue just doesn't seem to match who these people really are.
It's a terrible AP students.
Right, that's exactly what it is. Let's see. Special effects artists used about 50 gallons of blood.
It's really not that bloody, though.
It is not. Well, it's blood, but I guess there is one scene where Casey, Drew Barrymore, you see in
when she's filleted out like Hannibal Lecter.
Oh, that reminds me. It's like that thing. So Stu, the next day, is describing the murder scene in gruesome detail to everybody. And later we know Stu's one of the killers.
I guess he knows.
And so Billy's telling him to shut the hell up. He's like, hey, keep it. It's called tact.
They're so stupid.
Yeah, good times. I think that's about it. Shall we talk about the ratings?
Let's see here.
Scream currently has 79% on Rotten Tomatoes. 79%. And audience also gives it 79%. So, there it is.
All right, I'm going to give it 4.1 out of 5 Skeet Ulrich crybaby tears.
Oh God! Again, Skeet Ulrich not in Crybaby. That was a
Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp not as greasy in Crybaby.
No.
Ironically. Let's see. I think I'll give it 4 out of 5. God, Matthew Lillard's got kind of a skeleton face, just naturally. So let's call it Matthew. If you're listening, no offense. Let's give it 4 out of 5. Matthew Lillard skeleton face.
There you go. Boom. Hashtag boom.
It is. I think it is great. I still think it's very entertaining. I think obviously we've talked about this before. The slasher genre had been going down the tubes for probably about 8 years prior to this movie.
This resurrected the whole. Horror goes in and out of popularity, and it had just been dying off for some time. So this really resurrected the whole genre.
Yep, like Jason rising from the grave.
Writhing in the grave.
And writhing in the grave. damn it all to hell. So yeah, good times. I mean, if you haven't seen it, what are you doing? And I say that to you as well, Aaron. What are you doing? Sweet Jesus. It is good. Check it out. It's on, let me see. If you haven't seen it, how did we see it? I think it was on.
I think I had to. Did I have to? No, it was streaming for free. I had to pay for 3. I think it's on.
You had to pay for 4. You had to pay for 4.
Did I see 4? Was I
Yes,
forced
that's
at
with Amber Roberts.
Was I forced at gunpoint to watch 4 versions of Scream? Oh, poor me.
Scream is currently on HBO Max for free.
Yeah.
So, good times. If you don't have HBO Max, I'm sorry. You can also watch it on Pluto TV with ads. So, good times had by all. So, thank you very much. Go to our page on Facebook at The Podcast That Wouldn't Die. Go to our page on Twitter at TPodcastTWDie. Go to our page on Instagram.
We IG now. It's
We IG.
the_podcast_that_what.
You got the idea. Sweet Jesus.
And rate and review. 5 stars.
You can email us at thepodcastthatwouldn'tdie@gmail. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else the finer podcasts are available. So do that. Like Aaron says, you need to like, share, subscribe, and rate.
Also, I'm Kevin's sister. Hey, my Instagram just lit up. Do you think, it's your daughter liking the podcast? We need people not related to us to please like our Instagram and follow.
Frankly, I'd be happy if people relate to us. Frankly. Sweet Lord. Sweet Lord. So go ahead and check that out. Next week, I think we are doing Anaconda.
My anaconda don't want none unless it's got buns, hun. It's related to that.
Correct.
Is it the music video of Sir Mix-a-Lot? Is that what it is?
It literally starts with that. That's the basis of the. Well, it's got J-Lo, it's got Ice Cube, it's got Owen Wilson. It's an all-star cast.
God.
Jon Voight is most offensive.
Oh, not Jon Voight.
You can watch it for free on Amazon Prime, on Roku channel, on something called Fubo, if you happen to have that. So check that out. So there you have it. Thank you very much. And be well.
We didn't discuss all my other social media. You skipped right over that. I am the Cult of Aaron. You can email me at jointhecultofaaron. I'm on Instagram as the Cult of Aaron. I'm also on the Twitski as the Cult of Aaron. I am the leader. It's time for you to tithe.
It's send in your
I
tithes.
accept Venmo, PayPal, whatever.
Whatever's clever.